You guessed it, Pressure Points, with your two favorite hosts in the business. I'm Jumpy D, and this is my alley boy, AJ. We're coming at you with Season 4, Episode 30, Springtime in England. We're going to be getting a little bit more into what we talked about last week, so find us on Instagram and Twitter at PointsOPressure.
Well, all right.
Man.
We're
good
here.
Stuff.
That was a pretty good start.
Back.
Not bad. We didn't have to redo this one. You're getting better. You're improving.
I'm getting there. It's only taken fucking 2 years.
Yeah,
2 full years of work.
Okay, so I know we promised more shit from last week, but I'm going to start off a little more serious note. Some shit has happened for a YouTube channel that I like. And don't get up with me that I'm a shill. I'll just pretend like that didn't happen. So there's this ghost town, middle of the desert, like on the edge of Death Valley in California. It's called Cerro Gordo. This fantastic human being basically ran an illegal hostel in, I don't know, Texas or New York or something, and made some money. He runs a company, but he basically put his entire life worth into buying this ghost town for like $3 million, $4 million. And his entire thing is he's restoring it. He's adding cabins, bringing it back, and exploring all the mines and the caves, and exploring the area and, bringing a lot of the history in this area to life. So I love it.
And I know I've seen a few of his videos when I'm over at your place.
Yeah, I put them on I'm trying to get you into them. So he, it's really amazing. He really gets the beauty of the desert and the beauty of history, and obviously that's something we care about, hence you're on a history podcast right now. So I thought this would be fitting. He released a video today, and it was kind of out of nowhere, and he just kind of said, hey, this is probably the most important video that I put out. So down below, I'm going to link to a website. Basically what's happening is where the town sits, it's almost in a valley. There's a great view down to the desert floor. It's high up in the mountain, and then it's surrounded by these, by mountains. So one of these mountains was recently claimed by an international gold mining corporation.
Okay.
And using an old 1800s law, essentially, where you can claim, create these mining claims on public BLM land, which is the biggest bullshit. It's basically put in the 1800s because, what harm is one dude digging one shaft going to do, and then he's going to stimulate the economy, and it's fine. It is not supposed to be used for an international gold mining corporation to rape our BLM land, our public land.
Yeah.
So I'm getting a little heated. Basically, he put out a video. This large company, it's called K2, it's a gold mining company, is trying to put forward a claim on a bunch of the land around Cerro Gordo to put a massive pit mine into.
Jesus. So
he could use your help. I'm going to put the link down below, but save Cerro Gordo. It's Cerro Gordo, CERO, GORDO. So savecerrogordo.com. He has links so that you can submit a comment about it to the Bureau of Land Management, so you can, send in a really angry email to the K2 mining company and watch the video. It's really good. It's not super long, and it kind of outlines a lot of the work that he does and the importance of this. Basically what they're going to do is they're going to dig a huge pit out of where a mountain was, dump all that shit into a pile, and dump a bunch of cyanide onto it. Then all the cyanide that runs off will have these tiny specks of gold that they're able to then produce with. So, not really environmentally friendly, especially because there are endangered species in the area, endangered trees.
Not environmentally friendly, and it doesn't even sound efficient.
No, but it's only efficient if you have a huge amount of material and a lot of money.
I see. Yeah.
So
Jesus.
Please go to the website. If you want to fuck over the corporations, if you want to fuck over the man, if you are an anti-capitalist, if you're a communist, if you're a socialist, if you give a shit about the planet that we're on, among other things, this is a real chance to prove yourself. Go write a comment. Watch the video, write a comment, tell them not to do it, And, I can't say this. Well, actually, I can say this because I'm anonymous, and I'm not running this thing. But, like, I don't care if you threaten the CEO. He's got his email on the website.
Fuck K2. That's what I say.
Yeah, do it. And if you... limited time offer. If you send us a message on Instagram, we will send you a download link to bomb-making books. No, I'm just kidding. I won't do that. But...
Oh, Jesus Christ. God damn it.
But, yeah, really, I am really pissed. Because basically what I do in my off time is drive around the desert finding these historical sites. Oh, yeah, I didn't even mention that part. The land that they're claiming is historical. They've got old cabins from the 1800s on them still. They've got... Like, it's conservancy land, so it's supposed to be conserved. It's supposed to be public land that anybody can go and hike and enjoy. And it's just going to be literally a pit. And don't fall for that bullshit. Everybody in Utah, at least, at one point in your elementary, fucking one of those mining companies came to your school. Did this happen to you?
I'm pretty sure. And they basically just talk about how important the mining and everything is.
No, they would talk about how... After all that, when they leave, they would restore it to its, to its natural beauty.
Yeah, sure.
And, yeah, I'm like, okay, yeah, you're currently eating a mountain off the highway.
You're having to justify your actions to children, which means you're probably not doing some good shit.
Yeah, exactly. It's wild propaganda.
Yeah, really. That.
So yeah,
force feed that to kids who don't even know who the fuck you are.
Yeah, who don't know what mining is. Yeah. So I'm pissed off. I wrote what I think is a fantastic... Me and my wife both wrote shit to the BLM that met the character limit, so we're passionate about this.
Nice, good.
So each and every one of you, please, this is your chance to show how punk rock you are. But
Nice.
watch the video. He words this way better than I ever can. He's really good
Sweet.
at communicating. So just watch the video.
I'm excited to check it out.
Submit a comment, please. This is super important. Because basically, what he's doing is he's restoring this ghost town using the material that he can find around the ghost town, which is amazing in itself. And he's going to open it up so that you can go there and camp. You can go there and stay in... The original hotel was there up until sometime last year when it burned down from an electrical issue, because obviously the electricity's, 80, 100 years old in there. But it burned down. He's restoring it and recreating it. And you're going to be able to stay at a hotel in the middle of this old ghost town that's to period. You could potentially rent out the old whorehouse. He's restoring that right now, which is amazing. I shouldn't call it a whorehouse. Brothel.
There you go.
Like... He's putting in little cabins over the hillside. He's putting in campgrounds, and it's basically a place that you can just go up and go back in time, and it's not going to be cheesy or Mormon related, which is crazy.
Yeah, fucking, that's amazing though.
Yeah, so check it out. Leave a strongly worded comment. I definitely used the word rape in there, but twice, but then I changed it to just once. Rape of the earth, that kind of thing.
Right click, thesaurus.
Yeah, so that's my serious and opening. I'm sorry to waste 9 minutes of your time on this, but it's something that's very important to me.
You're good. It is really important. Honestly, the more that they shit on BLM land, like, the less likely we are to find out. I mean, it's land that's public. It's for the public. It's just them
to maintain it.
Yeah, it's them going out of their way, a corporation going out of their way to throw their big dollars in your face and say, no matter how much government protection you may have on this BLM land, that this is public land, we have more money and we can take it away. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Don't let that shit happen.
No, it's completely ridiculous. So. Check it out. Link below. This literally happened like 45 minutes ago. I think the video came out.
Jesus.
So
really?
I'm fresh. I've got it fresh.
Yeah. Damn.
Well, probably like an hour. But then to transition, I was recently on a little trip. This has nothing to do with the rest of the episode.
Yeah,
but it was
good.
a weird thing.
AJ sent me some fucking crazy Snapchats yesterday or Saturday, and it would like just the coolest shit. Like, I love the graffiti there. So continue. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we stopped by a sugar mill. That was the first stop on our... We did a little road trip, and it's it's derelict. It's falling apart. But, like, you can get in the huge... the smokestack. You can get...
Really?
We got into the basement, which you just drop. It's like a 4-foot drop onto a trash pile in a hole in the concrete. So that was really cool. We got up to... it's got like 3 or 4 stories of really shady stairs that you can get up. Certain parts of it are just being reclaimed by nature, by just ivy starting to grow in. We actually ran into another group of people there who were doing a photo shoot.
Oh, nice.
The model was wearing like a gas mask and had an M16... Or, not an M16. Oh, my God. An AR-15. And they were, like, doing smoke effects in this abandoned, like, very post-apocalypse style photography. Like,
did it, like, fuck you up when you first saw them? Where you're like, what the fuck is that person?
When we got there were 2 vehicles parked outside. And normally when we go to abandoned places in the middle of nowhere, we don't expect to see anybody. So we were a little nervous. We kind of hung out for about 10 minutes because it looked like one group was getting ready to leave. So basically, we were hiding. I hid the car, but like we had a view to them, but we were kind of where they couldn't see much of us if they looked over, which was nice. So we watched one group leave, and then we were like, okay, well, we're here. Let's just go in. I had my gun, no problem. I always bring a pistol on these things because you never know what you're going to run into in the middle of nowhere. So I went in, and I'm like, okay, they're just taking pictures. Like, I immediately saw it when we saw them. And they're just taking pictures. Cool. No problem. That made me feel way safer. Because if people are just, doing a photo shoot, chances are much less likely that they're also cooking meth.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, much lower chances. So, never zero, though.
Low, but never zero.
Exactly. So we checked out that place. That was awesome. That's where I sent you most of the pictures. After that, we went up to... I had some family up in that area. We then went to some ice caves up in Idaho, which is awesome. We couldn't spend too much time there. But on the way, I am autistic for maps. So I have a map of old geological data before mines... It was basically made before mines were scrubbed from public knowledge. Like the locations of them. So I had a couple dots of potential mine locations. So the first one we went to, it looks like somebody had bought the property that it was on, and they turned into horse corral, so we're not going to fuck around on private property. The other one, we are deep in these mountains, like narrow dirt roads with big, like, chunks taken out of them, where the rain has, like, gone down a hill and just fucking taken out part of the road. My car is a 2-wheel drive vehicle. SUV. So there were a couple parts where I was like, if I could turn around, if I was able to turn around, I would, because this road is getting shady. So we finally get up to the last little kind of mine location I want to check out. And there's a big sign kind of on the turnoff. Again, middle of nowhere. And it basically says, oh, this is a conservation area. We're trying to prevent the spread of wildfires in this area. So if you see the trees looking funny, essentially that's why. And they explain their whole thing. And then there's another sign that says, closed gate ahead, no turnaround. I'm like, I've turned around in some pretty shady spots. Let's go. So we go up. We're basically on the side of a mountain, like 10-foot drop next to us, and straight. And then it just leans down into the mountain down. And then the other side is just thick forest. So we're driving through, really bumpy, doing some twists and turns. There's literally one clearing. And then we get up to where the gate is. And the gate's open. But there's a big sign that says, the whole video surveillance, even though it literally never is. Private road, no trespassing, private property, all that stuff. So I stop right at the fence. And I'm like, okay, no problem. I'm not going to trespass, especially in the middle of nowhere. Like, I don't know who's out there. I'm going to get shot. Not going to do that. And all of a sudden, there's movement to my left. And I look over, and there's just a dude. Like an older dude there.
What the fuck?
And I unroll my window, and I said, "Oh, I didn't see you there. Sorry, we're leaving. Like, you know, basically, we're not going on your property." And he's acting really weird.
What the fuck?
I think. Maybe I'm reading into it. Because I was a little startled. But he basically, you know, comes up to the window and says, "Hey, where are you headed?" I was like, "Oh, I panicked, so I told him the truth." I was like, "Oh, I heard there was an old mine up here. Looks like I went too far." And he's like, "Yeah, I can't go through there. That's private property." And then he went quiet. And then he said, back around the corner there's a clearing. It's in there."
Jesus.
I'm like, "Okay, have a good day." And he just walks up through the fence, or through the gate. And I see he's got a small metal pail full of huckleberries.
What the fuck?
And I was like, what? That was such a weird situation. He was acting funny, but like, well, he told us where it was, so that's good.
Yeah. Or
So
he told you where his, like, rape AJ spot is.
Yeah, so I should have been thinking of something like that, but I was just like, well, he probably, you know, wants to keep to himself, wants us gone, so let's just go down, take a quick look, and we'll leave. So we have to back up quite a bit, and then there's a tiny turnaround spot. Like, teeny. Almost go off the cliff there. Find the clearing, pull off to the side of the road, and I've got the GPS coordinate, and I'm like, okay, I can... It's showing just beyond the tree line of this big field, this big clearing. And it's rocky, and it's kind of uphill. So I'm like, okay, let's go. Like, whatever. Leave the car. Go up there. And as we get to, like, the tree line, there's a cabin. Like, an old log cabin, roof's collapsed, and there's trees growing in it. Like, it's an old cabin. I'm like, holy shit. There's some cans and some metal scrap on the ground. These are all telltale signs of some mining activity, at least some habituation there. So we're like, holy shit, we found it. The GPS says it's just on the other side of this cabin. And then we hear like the sound of a vehicle like far away.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So we're like, what the fuck is that? And we turn back to the road. We can't be seen by the road because of how thick the trees are. But I have a good view down to my car, and I see two white trucks driving down from that private property. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. Like, something immediately in my gut is like, ooh, why did you leave the gun in the car?
Yeah, fuck.
I didn't even think about it until right then. I'm like, oh, fuck. This isn't good. We're sitting ducks. I'm like, maybe they'll just drive past. Maybe they were just leaving. You know, they just locked up the fence and left. Like, it was getting to the evening time. You know, maybe they weren't going to spend the night. Whatever. Trying to talk myself out of it. But something in my gut was just saying, like, all the alarm bells everywhere were ringing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do we do? What do we do? My wife is a little freaked out. I'm probably more freaked out. I like to play it down so that she won't freak out. And I'm like, okay, let's just stay here for a second. Let's see what they do. The first truck drives by. The second truck stops right behind our car. And the dude who we talked to at the top is kind of like, you know, when you open the door, but you stand on, like, the floor of the vehicle. So you're kind of above the cab. And he's just looking around, like, hand to his brow, looking up and down. Because luckily there's a field above and below the road.
Uh-huh.
And he's looking around. He's looking for us.
Jesus Christ.
Very well, he could have just been like, hey, did you find it? Like, totally innocuous, but I don't think he was.
Yeah,
Based on my intuition, was not good about that. So I'm like, okay, we need to stay here. Like, let's just stay here. Let's see what's going to happen. I don't know what's happening. This is fucking weird. And, like, I'm trying to think, like, are we going to hide in the cabin? Like, that would be the place I would check first, so that's not a good idea. You know, I'm going through scenarios of, like, I'm looking at rocks on the ground in case this guy comes up and I gotta bash his head in. Like, I was that level of freaked out.
Jesus Christ.
And we're just sitting there, we're watching him, and I see him kind of lean down, like, get out of the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And then behind us, in the forest, I start hearing, like, twigs and sticks snapping.
Oh,
There's
Jesus
no birds,
Christ.
there's no animal sounds, it's just like crunch, 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 snap, crunch, gravel.
Yeah.
And I have a background, not a background, I have some experience in, like, animal tracking. I taught it a bit, and stuff like that. I'm not a specialist by any means, but I have some experience in it. And whatever it was on 2 legs. You could hear it. There weren't 4 legs. It wasn't a deer. I mean, could have been a bear, but it didn't sound like a bear. It didn't have a lot of the heaviness that a bear sound walking through has. And immediately in my head, I'm like, is there a person walking from the direction of that private property to this place that we told them we were going?
Wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, now this is fucked up.
Yeah.
And I hear them. We listen to them for a couple of seconds, whatever it was. And then the person down in the truck, the old dude, gets in the truck and drives down. Starts driving away. And immediately I'm like, okay, we have to go now. If we walk...
This is your opening.
This is the one chance we have to get out of there. And we fucking book it down the hill. My wife ends up pulling a muscle in her thigh and rolls her ankle a couple of times. And
Jesus.
We get down the hill, we get in the car, and we book it to a national monument? It's like one of those things where it's not a national park. It's like it's a site, like a national site. Yeah. So I'm like, I know there are going to be people there.
Essentially, just like a pull off with a plaque,
with a cave and a plaque. Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, I know there are going to be people there. It's super populated this time of year with like ATVers and stuff. So we're going to go there and fucking get our bearings because we're also way outside of service. And so we are driving there. We end up later on, like on the turnoff to it, we get behind him. We come up
Oh shit, really?
We come up a hill and he's just at the top. And then he starts driving and I fucking take the other turn and gun it. Like,
yeah, god damn, dude.
And we get to the cave and it's awesome. It's a beautiful cave. And basically that's our chance to just like decompress on whatever the fuck that was. So now I'm gonna get into my interpretation almost of some of the things. You know, instinctively I thought, oh, there's somebody, you know, the footsteps behind us were, you know, somebody coming from that place.
Mm-hmm.
But it also felt a lot like an experience I had one other time in the old Indian school in Brigham City. It was almost a warning in how it felt. Like, I didn't feel like whatever was coming was bad, but it definitely has, like, it's a warning to get the fuck out. It's the exact same thing. I've told you this story, I'm sure, about the Indian school, but basically my mother and I were in the basement, which is awful, and we're looking through down this basement, and I feel the breath on my face, and somebody says, get out, or you need to go. Yeah, that's what it was. You need to go. And the thing saying you need to go didn't feel bad, but something else down on the other end felt awful. You know, that kind of thing where
it's
it
unsettling.
felt like a warning. That person walking from the top. Like, something's coming, you need to leave.
Jesus.
So, that was entirely terrifying.
Yeah, really, though. Fuck that, dude.
So, you and your lady are invited next time we go up.
I'm down.
I'll feel way comfortable with 4 people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
and
sure
you're good at talking to people. You're very good at talking.
I'm good at alleviating situations.
Yeah. So, like, I'm still like just now telling the story. I'm like amped up. Like, this was I cannot tell you how terrifying it was. How far away we were from other people.
Tell your wife when she listens to skip the first 25 minutes of the episode, because the last thing I want is to give her more anxiety.
Nah, she's good now.
I'm sure she was just miserable that day. Good lord.
No. It was very, very short part of the day, thank goodness. It was towards the end of the day.
Oh, okay.
And then basically
Kinda as
when
you
we got to
typed
the caves, it was, okay, we're safe. But I had this recurring thought, basically the entire drive home, the next, 3.5 hours, of this white truck is going to come over the hill, and he's going to be following us.
And I mean, just the fact that it had happened. Like, you thought you had gotten away, and then it's just like, oh, white truck's there. Same dude. It's spooky.
Yeah.
Some scary shit.
It was terrifying. We've never had anything that shady happen.
Yeah, goddamn.
On one of these trips. We've definitely had some shady shit happen on trips.
Yeah, but not with
Nothing
other
this
people.
threatening. Nothing with other people, really, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Jesus
there you
Christ.
go. There's 25 minutes of the episode totally unrelated to the rest of it.
Well, I mean, I would say that, you kind of tied it together with the phenomenon of Get Out or whatever the fuck that
Yeah, whatever
is.
the fuck
I don't know
that
anything
was.
about it. But, yeah, we hyped it up a little bit last week. We talked about some of it in our sloppy seconds this last Thursday. Or Saturday. I don't know when the fuck AJ put it up. But we talked about it a little bit. So, Springheeled Jack is going to be our discussion this week. Now...
Hell yeah. I gotta tell you, I was going to put together an episode of Springheeled Jack for, our 4th episode.
Yeah, a
But
while back,
I didn't
too.
feel like I was good enough for it. I felt like it was a topic that I wanted more people to hear.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought it back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm stepping a little bit more out of my comfort zone this second half of this season, trying to get, like I've said, I am skeptic on a lot of the paranormal stuff, but I do like the stories behind it and the psychology behind it that, sometimes it's just your mind playing tricks on you. Sometimes it's just a gut instinct, but I just like delving a little bit further into it and kind of seeing more of it on my own, because when you explain it to me, my brain will automatically justify actions. But when I read it and kind of go through it, I'm like, this is kind of spooky.
Yeah, especially when you start getting into the accounts of multiple unrelated witnesses seeing the same thing,
Yeah,
that adds some
exactly.
verification to it. It makes it a little spicy.
Yeah, and we'll get a little bit more into all that as we go. So, back in the 19th and 20th century, there were, like we talked last week with the Hammersmith gavel, there were a lot of ghost sightings or phenomenon that people were seeing in the streets of England. And it wasn't just in one area. It wasn't just strictly to Yorkshire, whatever. It was kind of everywhere.
Yeah, the physical mediumship was really popular. So,
and I don't really know, was there anything that really influenced that? Was it just, population density was really booming at the time?
It was in vogue to do spooky, ghostly things.
Okay.
You're it's Friday night. Let's go over to Helen's house. She's a physical medium. Let's put her into a trance and see if she'll manifest some, hands in the red light. That was very... I love physical mediumship. I would love to find a physical medium. But,
that'd be cool.
That it was so in vogue that the concept of seeing ghosts would be totally fine. And as we learned from last week, sometimes a ghost is just a dude wearing all white. A white dude wearing all white.
Yeah. Oh, no.
But, especially because the pollution around the time, it was pretty foggy.
Smoke was, they were starting to use, steam engines back then?
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, probably just things people hadn't really seen. There's actually one event that I'll get into it. So, like I said, Springheeled Jack kind of popped up out of nowhere. It was a few people saw him, and then it just fucking took off. And it really did have a lot of sightings all over England. So in 1837, one of the very, very first events, Mary Stevens was walking to work as a servant at this big manor.
I was going to say, a woman worker?
Yeah, I know. What? Ghosts would never
as a servant,
prey on them.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah, so she's walking to work, and this strange figure jumps out at her from a dark alley, and she she told the police that he wrapped his arms around her and grabbed her like fully with his arms in a really tight grip, and then he just basically got rapey as fuck. He started kissing her a bunch and tearing off her clothing, but she ended up with a lot of these like scratches. And I mean, you can't attribute it to fucking long fingernails, I don't know, but she said, and she referred to them as metallic claws, which, like, in my opinion, I've been scratched with like fingernails with like fucking claws, just cat claws. But like, it's different when it's metal. There's something, I don't know why.
You can feel that.
But it feels different. Yeah. Different. And she went on to say that he felt as clammy as a corpse. And when she started screaming and people were like kind of commotion was happening, people were moving over, she said he disappeared. Now, it wasn't a normal disappearing. It wasn't like he just poof was gone. It was that he let her go, and she felt like he just jumped way out of there.
Like up and away, yeah, jumped
just
out of there.
Like essentially jumped over a wall up onto the rooftop, just away from the situations. And over the next couple of days, there were a lot of similar reports, and a couple of them stated that he jumped over as high as a 9-foot wall. While just high-pitched cackling, which I think is just the best fucking thing in the world.
Cackling away.
It sounds like such an English tale of, like, this guy that he can jump over buildings and he just... You're like, what the fuck? Like, it's so great. So, a few months go by, and so that happened in November. A couple months go by... winter's kind of hitting, so it's kind of a dreary time in England, and more people are starting to talk about Springheeled Jack. And it really starts to take off, so much so that in, I think it's like early January, they refer to him as the Lord Mayor over the area releases a letter from an anonymous concerned citizen. And I've actually got the letter here, so I'll read it. It appears that some individuals of, as the writer believes, the highest ranks of life, have laid a wager with a mischievous and foolhardy companion, that he durst not take upon himself the task of visiting many of the villages near London in 3 different disguises: a ghost, a bear, and a devil, and moreover, that he will not enter a gentleman's gardens for the purpose of alarming the inmates of the house. The wager has, however, been accepted, and the unmanly villain has succeeded in depriving 7 ladies of their senses, 2 of whom are not likely to recover, but to become burdens to their families. Now, I know it's a lot to unpack. That's just the first half of it. But basically, he's just explaining that a bunch of rich folk got together and they made a bet that somebody couldn't scare a bunch of women as a ghost, a devil, and a bear, right? Mm-hmm. And he's saying that the wager's been accepted and that basically it's just working so far, which I'll get into that right after I finish the second half of this. So, at one house, the man rang the bell, and upon the servant coming to open the door, this worse than brute stood in no less dreadful figure than a spectre clad most perfectly. The consequence was that the poor girl immediately swooned, and has never from that moment been in her senses. The affair has now just been going on for some time, and, strange to say, the papers are still silent on the subject. The writer has reason to believe that they have the whole history at their finger ends, but, through interested motives, are induced to remain silent.
Hold on. Finger ends?
I know. As soon as I saw that, I was like, we're not going to say fucking fingertips. Like,
fingertips.
This is how...
ends.
Is this how posh we're getting in this letter?
Which end of your finger do you have the information on? Oh.
Finger ends. So
it's like this instead of speed bumps, it's speed humps.
Oh God, I love that. Speed humps are my favorite thing. The only thing I can do. So it adds, like I was saying before, it kind of takes away the paranormal aspect of things. To say that, oh, these rich men are doing this. Now, the Lord Mayor actually had a guy in mind that was kind of, I don't want to say a ruffian per se, but he was this fucking spoiled rich kid. His name was Marquis. I don't know. Marquis. I'll say Marquis. And he was known for having bad luck with women and police. He was known for drunken brawling, and he would do a lot of vandalism and these, like, basically play, like, brutal jokes. He was like the fucking YouTube prank star of the 19th century.
Oh, I hate those.
And he was known for doing anything for a bet. And he had kind of a crew of miscreants that they were known for just jumping out. They would get drunk at pubs. They would hide in alleyways and jump out and scare people. And I would go as far to say that, yeah, they probably got fucking handsy as shit with some girls that were walking to work. It would not surprise me one bit. So the mayor kind of had an inkling that it was this Marquis guy. Now, Marquis actually had a nickname, and his name was Mad Marquis. Because he was so well known for doing this. And obviously when you have bad luck with the police and you've got a mischievous nickname, you're probably not so good a guy. So
what?
Yeah, right? Now, it's kind of backed up in the fact that in this letter, they say that he's dressed no less dreadful than a spectre clad, most perfectly. Which he's dressed nicely, which Springheeled Jack was kind of known for looking like a gentleman from afar, and you would get closer, and he would lift up his cloak, and he had what they called an oilskin, which was basically just like, imagine spandex, like a spandex or like latex suit, kind of just like really tight fitting. And so, I mean, a lot of the things lined up, but they were never really able to prove that Marquis was doing this because it was all over at the time. People were getting hit in like the north and then the south the next night and then back in the north and the east the same night. Mm-hmm. And it was just kind of confusing for the police. And I feel like that's what really adds to the story and kind of the legend of Springheeled Jack is that, like, as easy as I would like to be able to explain what the fuck was going on and what he was doing, there's really no way to really explain it other than, like, I mean, if you want to take a stance, it's like nobody was doing anything and it was and he never existed. I guess people's minds playing tricks on them, but to take it that far and for it to be that consistent, it's kind of crazy to think that, like, everyone's having their mind played with the same way at the same time. It's just like, I don't know. The stories like this is why I'm like, I like stuff like this. I love the story behind it. I love the psychology behind it. Because really, it's just one of those things we can't explain.
Yeah, but you didn't even go into some of the more...
No, I still have more.
Spooky parts.
I figured I would kind of...
spooky?
A little bit, okay. Not a ton of it.
That's the only stuff that I know about.
I figured you would probably know quite a bit about it, but I know that you kind of have a bit on the Mothman prophecies.
So just the phenomenon that is dude wearing black flying around. Because it seems like a pretty common, I don't know the term for it, a pretty common occurrence, I guess, through history. Like, we had, Springheeled Jack. We have Mothman in, like, the 80s, and who's kind of made an appearance, like, 3 or 4 years ago. He was being seen again, which is crazy.
He's a hero. He's a hero we need, but don't deserve.
Yeah, go destroy a small bridge. But, yeah, like, the phenomenon of people flying, wearing all black with red glowing eyes, sometimes shooting fireballs, is a kind of weirdly common thing. Like, I should have done more research and actually had notes, because...
No, you're good.
Of course.
No
but,
worries.
like, even in, like, there's some stories of, like, thunderbirds, which are just giant birds. Sometimes they're reported as a dude with wings. Like, even in the Old West, which it's kind of debatable because they would very often put up fake stories to sell more papers. But there were a lot of stories of not only pterodactyls, which is pretty cool, but flying men in black wings with black leathery wings. In fact, there's even a story from a platoon in Vietnam. Let's bring it back. From a couple episodes ago.
And it was Nazis in black capes.
Yeah, no. This one's actually pretty interesting. Apparently it was seen multiple times by different groups, but it was pretty hush-hush, of course. But basically people would see flying over, active fighting, a woman with black bat-like wings. And she would be flying, and then she would curl her wings around her and kind of like glide and dive that way.
Interesting.
And then she'd bring her wings back out and start flying again. And sometimes she would dive bomb like these military units. There were multiple times she was shot at, and nothing happens. But it was the same thing. It was that leathery, like you were saying with the oil skin. It was very similar to that, which is also how
she was actually
encounters.
just she was a ghost coming back to haunt them.
A ghost dominatrix.
For fucking, like, destroying and dilapidating her town.
Yeah, exactly. But, like, even with Mothman, there's a story of a couple of kids, of course, getting up to no good, and they see it in the sky, and it kind of dives down towards them. It's got the red eyes. It's got the oilskin type. They're not sure if it's wearing clothing or not, but it's got that leathery, black, shiny, whatever it is, whether it's skin or a suit. That's always debated. Is because you can say, oh, red eyes and leathery skin, but at the same time it could be, a leather suit with, maybe some luminescent goggles, if you want to go more materialistic. So that's always interesting. In fact, another random story that comes to my mind, it was a group of kids on a reservation, indigenous peoples, and they were driving through, and basically the kid who was driving had been told by his grandmother, hey, maybe don't go out there at 3 in the goddamn morning. But what else are you going to do on a reservation besides drink? Because, horrible conditions that could be prevented. So they were out and about. It was 4 people, and they started hearing weird, like, animal noises. And they're like, oh shit, we better go. And it could be interpreted as a skinwalker type experience, where they're in the car, doors are locked, but they haven't left yet, but the car's on, and they have a thunk on the roof of their car, and the car kind of shakes, and a thing looks down, dark, and Red Eyes looks, and, like, in through the passenger window, dips down from the top, and they fucking gun and drive away as fast as they can on these dirt roads. And this thing the passenger said it looked like it was flying next to them as they were going, 40 miles an hour on a dirt road.
That just makes me think of, what was it, Jeepers Creepers?
Never saw it.
You ever see that movie? Oh, it's fucking terrible.
Oh, good. Put it on the Halloween list.
Right. Oh, God. But yeah, it's kind of a strange phenomenon, and I like that it's kind of, like, even though Springheeled Jack was really focused in on, like, England, I think it's cool that everywhere else kind of has their own version of that, and that's what these stories are. It's funny, and even if you go back to our old episode, Will-O-Wisp.
Oh, yeah.
We kind of talk about, like, the Will-O-Wisp phenomenon and how it wasn't just this, like, one thing in, like, the Scottish Isles, for example. It's all over. Like, everywhere has kind of a story for what this is. And this is England's definition during the 19th century.
Yeah, it's like every culture has a depiction of what we would call a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch.
Mm-hmm.
You've got them in South America. You've got them in Europe. You've got them in the East. You got them in Scandinavia. You know, you've got Yeti. You've got Yowie. You've got I forgot what they're called in South America. Totally spacing it, but it's that same thing where there are so many phenomena that are shared throughout each and every culture that we're only able to really start to look into now because of, mass communication. It's really cool, interesting.
So, I'm going to go over like three of the largest events that happen. So Jane Alsop she was up late one night and there was a knock on her door. So she goes and this is like February 1938. So this is like a month or two after the release of that letter that was like, oh yeah, it's like this, whatever. So she answers the door, and there's an officer, a really gentleman-appearing officer, like really nice-looking guy, that he's standing at her doorstep, and he says, "Come out quickly. I've caught Springheeled Jack out in the street. I need you to bring out a candle so that we can identify him. Hurry, quickly." So she watches him run back out to the middle of the street. And she rushes back inside and she grabs a candle, she lights it, and she goes out into the street and bends down, gets this candle close to the cop's face to kind of see, like, what the fuck is going on. And all of a sudden, the police officer throws off his cloak, and she saw one of what she described as just one of the most hideous and sinister-looking beings she's ever seen. He was wearing the oilskin beneath his cloak. He had this, like, strange helmet on. And he turns and he blows blue fire, just a spit of blue fire directly towards her. Mm-hmm. And she, like, stumbles back, falls down, and kind of the same as before, she sees these metallic claws come out, and he starts just scratching at her clothes, kind of like kissing all over her, getting really handsy and creepy. And so she jumps up and she tries to run away, and he catches her on her doorsteps, and he tears up her neck and arms with his claws, still just trying to, like, just attack her. And her screams are heard by her, like, the people that live with her, and they rush out. I think it was her sisters. Yeah, her sisters hear her screams from the street, and they rush out the door, and as they open the door to help their sister, they all see this man just leap away. And all of them are just kind of in awe. Their sister's just completely torn up, and there's no one in the middle of the street.
Did we mention, it just popped in my head, sorry. Did we mention his footwear?
No. I didn't write anything down for it, if you want to tell them.
Oh, yeah. So something that was kind of peculiar, not as weird as it would be today. Not as out of place, I should say, as it would be today. But he wore heels.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He wore, like, thick heels, like pilgrim shoes, but, like, heels. That's why he was called Springheel. Because they thought, oh, maybe he's got springs in his heels, and that's how he jumps so far. Because we don't know anything about, physics.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, that jumped right in my head.
Spring-powered heels. No, you're good, dude. I didn't even have that down, so thank you. Mm-hmm. So, later on, right around the same time, obviously not the same night, but kind of that February, March, late winter season, Lucy Scales is leaving her brother's home. And they're kind of walking down these darkened alleyways, just trying to rush home, whatever. They had a great night. They're enjoying themselves, laughing. And she sees a man in a cloak down the way. And she's with, I think she's with some of her family, like 2 of her brothers are with her, but one's hanging like way back. So she sees this man in a cloak down the alley, and kind of the same thing. He turns and looks at her, and she's just astounded, like, what the hell? So he kind of starts walking towards her, and she notices that he looks kind of like a gentleman, and so she's not super wary or anything. She greets him, and all of a sudden, he spits this same blue flame into her face. Now, I have reason to believe that Lucy had, oh my God, the word just left my mind.
No!
Yeah, really. So basically, she falls into seizures. She starts going into these... Yes, thank you. Epilepsy. So she falls into these seizures, and they go on for hours for her. So much so that, like, after he spits out this blue flame and kind of, like, jumps away, her brother runs up, and he's, like, trying to console her, trying to make sure she's not fucking, like, choking on her tongue. Like, he's doing everything he can to try to calm her down. And like I said, this goes on for like hours, which that shit's just wild to me. But at the same time, knowing epilepsy, like that bright flash, especially at the time, like they didn't really have TVs blaring in their faces or quick flashes of light really happening all that often. And so for that to suddenly happen, it's like, yeah, she went into fucking like just shaking fits because nobody else really had run into flashing lights before. It wasn't a common occurrence. So I mean, as before, panic kind of spreads across England, and everyone starts seeing these things. Now, you could go as far to say that once you planted the seed in everybody's mind, and everybody now knows about it, kind of like the Bigfoot theory, that everyone thinks they see him because that's what's ever present in their mind, right? And so it kind of just takes off. A lot of people and a lot of like church leaders start preaching that he's a messenger of Satan or he is the devil himself, and it kind of twists his appearance. Like people start saying that he has these fiery eyes and he's got small devil horns, which that's why he wears the helmet so you can't see them.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And I mean, it's kind of one of these things, that like people even start using for their children. He becomes the boogeyman of England at the time. That, hey, if you're not going to be a good kid, Springheeled Jack is going to jump into your window at night. And it's so fascinating to see, like, what was like a handful of isolated incidents that they have like reports of, and people that came out and said, yeah, this affected me. There weren't a ton of, I think you said there were only like 2 or 3, but there aren't a lot of really definitive events from it.
Yeah, it was only like a couple of them were reported in big newspapers. Yeah. And then other people said they had experiences but didn't go to the newspaper. So it almost became like a gossip. Oh, so-and-so saw Springheeled Jack. Oh, so-and-so saw him. Which could be, some social clout. But, maybe they were seeing it.
Yeah. So it gets linked to another phenomenon at the time, which I'll just kind of grace over this one really quickly. It's called the Devil's Footprints. Now, around the same time, I think it's like 1840s, late 1830s, during the winter, people were finding like what they said looked like hoof prints in the ground.
Yeah.
But they're not, like when something on 4 legs with hooves, like a horse or a donkey, is walking, they generally won't step perfectly in their own tracks as before. And there would be like a little bit of drag in the snow that it would be pretty obvious. The other thing is that these devil's footprints aren't just like walking around somebody's property. It walks on someone's property and then suddenly the footprints walk up to a wall, like the wall of your home, and then you look up onto the roof and those footprints are continuing on the roof. And so people are like, well, I know for a fact my horse didn't jump onto my roof
yeah.
because this is 1835 and it would not support the weight of my large horse. And some people said that these hoof prints, they would follow them and they would go 40 to 100 miles, like a long way. And kind of the same process is it walks onto someone's roof and then it hops back down and it walks over like 3 miles away to the neighbor's house, walks on their roof, on their little silo, whatever. And so people were like, this is Springheeled Jack because he's jumping these great distances to walk on our roofs. Now, a little while later, there were the soldiers they were out doing their rounds, and they see a man out in the darkness wearing this cloak, and he's walking towards them. Now, one of them, he actually yells a challenge to this figure, basically like, oh, like, you got a problem with us? You want to fight? Whatever. And the figure, and basically he just says, hey, do you want to fight? Like, if you want to, get over here, like,
bring it on. He cuts his chest open, tearing off his shirt. Right?
And this figure hops over, and it's not just one man, it's a handful of his comrades see this thing like kind of make these large jumps over to their friend, and it gets in their friend's face and it just slaps him in the face a bunch of times. Like it's just
how very 1835 of you.
Avast ye, and just slaps him a bunch. And then the guard is kind of taken aback by like, what the how the fuck did he just get over to me so quickly? He pulls out his gun and he shoots a couple times. Now, people thought that he had blanks in his, like, that he was shooting blanks, but they later found out that like he had regular bullets in there. Dude could have killed Springheeled Jack, but he was a bad shot. He was a bad soldier. Now, a lot of people were like, oh, well, it was probably one of his friends from the fort just going out there and fucking with him. But everyone had an alibi as to where they were at that time. And they never really were able to track down what the fuck actually happened that night. And so it's just, he gets the shit slapped out of him and then fires his gun a few times, and this thing that slapped his fucking little face jumps right back away into the darkness. Yeah.
I can't get over that. Sorry. It's just so funny.
It's hilarious. I like imagining it in my mind. I think it's the funniest thing. Imagine an 1830s like England soldier that he's like, come fight me if you will, and this thing just boing boing and then just
slap.
And I imagine it with both hands just on his cheeks, back and forth.
Yeah. Like really not that hard.
He's like, what the fuck? And he fires. This thing's just like, peace. I think it's hilarious. But yeah, past that, like, there really wasn't a lot of evidence to either support the theories or to find someone that was doing it. And like I said, people thought it was Mad Marquis, but like it never truly panned out. Yeah, and I think one person came forward after the first event, and he said, I'm Springheeled Jack. And they tried him. They brought him to court. The only thing that stopped it was the fact that she said he spit blue flame, and she stood by it. She said, he spit blue flame in my face, and this guy goes, well, I'm not able to do that. And so they didn't arrest him. He wasn't Springheeled Jack.
Well, yeah, it's weird. I don't understand the psychology of that, but it's like anytime there's something horrible, an attack, or something that's anonymously done, there are always people lining up to take credit for it.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if it's like
serial killer investigations. Somebody will come up and say, "I did it. I killed them," but they can't provide any information except what was released to the media.
I wonder if it's just, honestly, in my opinion, I would say it's just attention-seeking behavior. It's just somebody that is so lonely that they're like, I need any kind of fucking, like, clout, basically.
Yeah, but you're going to do something like that?
They're just 1830s clout chasers.
I just don't. Yeah, it doesn't make sense in my brain, because obviously I'm not that crazy.
Maybe.
I'm not a clout chaser. I don't want credit for my misdeeds.
I know.
That's why I don't tell anybody I do them.
That's why we're anonymous.
Exactly.
But yeah, so that's the legend of Springheeled Jack. He's wandering around to this day.
Yep, definitely still assaulting people in the tube.
Yeah. But fucking crazy. Who would have thought that D does 2 paranormal episodes in a row?
In a row. I didn't have to do any notes. Man. It was fantastic.
I got you.
And speaking of the London Tube, I was saving this for a sloppy seconds, but I'm going to throw it in at the end here.
Yeah.
The only connection to this in the story was the London Tube. Have you ever heard of a space case?
No.
Okay, good. I hadn't heard about this, but my father pointed it out to me. And I looked it up, and yeah, apparently it's a thing. So this information, it's kind of a slang name used by emergency first responders in the UK.
Okay.
So a space case is when somebody drops something, jumps down onto the tracks, doesn't realize how far it is, can't climb back out, and then the train comes.
Jesus.
So basically what happens is they get jammed between the train and the platform, which doesn't have a lot of space if you'd believe it. And it happens so quickly, people go into shock immediately.
Really?
But pretty much what happens is their top half, belly button up, is, facing away from the train towards the platform, whereas their bottom half has spun around like a screw a couple of times from the train.
Okay.
So basically their spine's broken.
Yeah.
They're completely sheared. Like, it's awful, obviously. Completely twisted up. And because they're in so much shock, they can't tell. So they're sitting there when first responders show up saying, help me up, I'm just stuck a little bit, help me up, I'm fine. But the pressure is the only thing keeping them alive. The second that train moves, they lose all blood pressure and they die. They immediately bleed out in seconds.
Wow,
so
that's crazy.
So basically they're sitting there, and if their family's close by and they want them to, sometimes the family will come by and, like, kiss them goodbye.
Yeah, just give their condolences, yeah. Get their last moments.
Yeah, have some... Or they'll give them a phone and let them call whoever they want, but basically they get to sit there, and they know they're eventually told they're dead, and they're literally walking, not even walking dead. They're just dead.
Yeah. Jesus.
So, yeah, I figured it wasn't long enough for a whole episode. But yeah, I was learning about that the other day.
That's crazy. That's some wild shit.
Super fun. So a lot of times that happens with, like, industrial equipment. It happens a lot with agricultural equipment. Farmers will be just completely trapped and not understand it, that their lower half is ground beef.
God damn.
And that as soon as they,
that whatever has turned them into ground beef has now become a tourniquet, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus.
And, like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, eventually the blood gets stagnant and will, I think it becomes more acidic. I'm not 100% sure. So either way, they'll die eventually. But a lot of times they'll get the closure as much as they can, and then reverse the feed.
God damn, crazy.
Yeah, so
the train can't stop running.
Yeah, gotta get people point A to point B.
Yeah, right.
But yeah,
Oh,
Springheeled
goodness.
Jack, I love it. I love,
Yeah.
like, 1830s London had some
So
real
wild.
paranormal shit.
I'm sure we'll touch up on it a little bit more
Oh, yeah.
as we go, because we got nothing but time.
Oh,
As
yeah.
I die of a heart attack tonight in my
Yeah,
sleep.
exactly. As you fucking jump down off a platform of a train.
Yeah. God, right? Oh, no thanks.
Don't
Goodness.
do
All right, well, do you have the Patreon
that.
pulled up?
I do have the Patreon pulled up. I'm not going to read it, though. And that's below me. That's your job. Oh, it looks like you disconnected.
Yeah. I clicked on the link and left the clean feed.
That's
So,
okay.
Whoops.
I was just remarking how reading off the Patreons is below me, and that's why it's your job.
And as I leave. Peace.
Yeah, exactly. Great timing.
Oh, is it still recording? We're
Yeah,
still good?
we're all good.
Thank God.
They
All right.
won't even be able to
My
tell.
bad.
I didn't even have to edit.
Sweet.
So, thank you very much. If you're interested in supporting the show, getting some couple extra episodes. How many are we up to? Like 25? Almost
yeah,
30.
26, something like that.
26?
We've actually reached out to a multi-billion-dollar corporation that we're trolling currently.
We are.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
If
when
you're
we get
intrigued
updates,
on the story,
that'll be a slot.
yeah, this coming Thursday we'll have an update for you.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
It's pretty wild. But yeah, if you want some more, you want to hear more of D and AJ's tomfoolery, a little bit more out of the side of. Oh, god damn it! Somebody's car alarm just went off. If you want to hear more of like current events, opinionated pieces,
Less history, more DNA.
more, just discussion. By all means, check it out. Follow the link in our bios. Check out the links below on your show notes.
So thank you guys so much for supporting us. Abby, AJ's Third Nut, Lindo, NSA Isn't Real, D's Nuts, Nordic Thunder, Toddle Waddle, Dark Runner, Haley, and Casey McFacey. Thank you guys so much. You're allowing us to kind of do some legit things. We ran some ads from this. Basically, it all goes back in. All the money from here goes back into the show. We did some ads. It helps pay for our hosting, which is stupidly expensive, but
worth it.
Totally worth it. So much fun. So you're keeping us going.
Yeah.
And so far we're still ad free. So that's for you.
Bada bing. Yeah.
We've had offers of ads.
Ideally, we can keep it
really.
ad free. That would be nice. But
yeah. As long as we continue to have support, I don't see any reason why we would need to do ads.
Yeah.
Unless it's something specific. Unless they offer us a lot of money.
Unless it's a YouTube channel that AJ definitely wasn't paid to talk about at the start of this episode.
No, I wish.
I'm just kidding.
I would not accept money from him.
All right. Well, thanks again, guys.
Oh, yeah. Check
Follow
out the
links below.
Yeah.
Check out the, what is it below? A GoFundMe? Is it
No,
just
it's just like a link
website?
to go read or to go submit a comment to the BLM.
Submit your comments and
watch the video, then submit your comments.
Always reach out to us with any questions or whatever. And, we'll catch you guys next Monday.
See y'all.